It's pretty wild that we've been traveling full time for 4 years now, and we honestly never could have predicted what this journey would look like.
Keep going, that's 368.
Okay, go, go, go.
Okay. I think we might have taken, a wrong turn somewhere along the way.
Oh, guys, I don't know what we were thinking. I don't know how we're gonna last a whole month in this place.
As promised, the crowd went from a couple dozen people to easily a few hundred standing here.
I convinced Stephanie to give the grasshoppers a try.
Oh, no. No. Oh my gosh, it's the bathroom. Who does this fit? No.
Okay, I'll just keep going.
Always an adventure. We never know what we're gonna be facing in these Airbnbs.
I think you can tell that we've had a whole lot of misadventures, and that's kind of what travel really is. Of course, you do get all those wonderful, special, unforgettable moments.
This is so magical. We are definitely the very first people here today, and this site, it's absolutely magnificent.
But for every one of those special moments, there are literally hundreds of challenges and mishaps and frustrations.
So we thought, let's not keep all our mistakes to ourselves. This could really be helpful to anyone who's thinking about packing up their bags and heading off for a life of travel.
We've taken everything we've done wrong over the past 4 years and we're sharing it all with you guys. We're talking about getting rained out, feeling lonely, travel burnout.
And of course, we're gonna get into the topic that we know you guys care about the most, which is how to make it all work on a set budget. Because of course, you don't need to be a budget traveler. We're certainly not budget travelers, but you do need to somehow make those finances work.
By the way, if you're new to our channel, I'm Gillian and this is Stephanie, and we've got our two little travel companions here, Jasper and Huxley.
So the four of us have been traveling the world full time for 4 years now and sharing it with all of you guys as we go.
So you'll notice that it was pretty nice outside.
The sun is shining, it's nice and warm.
By now we've gotten much better at being in the right place at the right time weather-wise.
Sort of. It's a work in progress. We still have a lot of hits and misses, but we were really, really bad at it when we first started traveling full time.
Yeah, I mean, here was our itinerary. We started in Lviv in November, then Istanbul in December.
And then we were in Florence in February. So what all of these places have in common is that they can get pretty cold and rainy in the off season.
Which we weren't prepared for at all.
No, we were pretty shivery. So that kicked off 4 years of trying to do a much better job of planning around the weather. And it's something that honestly, we've never really thought that much about before, but it turns out to be really important when you're traveling full time.
Well, if you were wondering if Vienna is rainy in May, I can assure you that it absolutely is.
Guys, this is kind of crazy, but Hurricane Agatha is headed our way, and there's supposed to be 100-mile winds hitting our place by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, here comes the rain. Huxley's getting a lift, Jasper's walking, we're partially covered. Final leg of the journey. It's crazy hot here, and like I said, we're staying in a very unconventional Airbnb with no air conditioning for a full month, and we're already dying of the heat at 7 in the morning.
Weather does really impact how much you can get out and enjoy a place. If it's too hot or too cold or too rainy, you might not be able to make the most of your time.
So we're gonna give you guys a few quick examples. We planned the entire month of August in Athens one year, and that was a total mistake. I mean, it was really too hot to go anywhere between the hours of 10 a.m. all the way through until 6 p.m.
Basically all day.
Yeah, so we would sort of scuttle out in the early morning hours. We do our best to see a few sites, and then that was it for seeing the city.
But apparently we didn't learn our lesson because the next August we decided to stay in Belgrade, which is pretty much the same situation.
Yeah, thank goodness for air conditioning. And we also have done the reverse. So we've booked Southern European destinations during the winter, and we discovered that there's really no such thing as a winterized Mediterranean apartment.
Yeah, I mean, there's no insulation, no central heating, just lots of freezing cold tiles.
So that was our experience in Malta in January one year. We also tried Izmir in March when Turkey was going through this huge cold snap.
I mean, I think think you guys are getting the picture. So weather can really make a difference.
Especially when you're traveling to regions like South America, where there are a lot of microclimates.
Yeah.
It can be really hard to line up visits to multiple countries when you've got one over here that's having a heat wave and then the other one is in the rainy season.
So like we said, we haven't quite perfected our approach yet, but we keep trying.
We do have a couple websites that we can recommend. There is one called Climates to Travel and then another one called WeatherSpark. So we use these websites at our very earliest stages of planning our trips. This is long before we even consider buying a ticket to go anywhere.
I mean, ideally you just toughen up and deal with whatever weather comes your way.
That's spoken by someone who went to military college.
We found that it's better to understand what you're going to be heading into.
Yeah, so realistically, you will enjoy your time there a little bit more if you're feeling prepared.
Our final destination is the crater all the way up there. It's something like 2,000 feet straight up from here. No choice but just to press on. Whew. Wow, this is one heck of a climb.
Okay, we finally made it up here and I'm just about to see the crater. Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. Oh, it's an absolutely enormous crater lake. I mean, it's just so huge and spectacular. Totally worth the hike. Even the worst, toughest, hardest moments, totally worth it.
All right, next topic. What to do with your time after you've already seen every site in town.
Yeah, and you can't possibly go on yet another tour or look at a whole other church.
Yeah, I mean, we found that it's just too much to be a tourist 24/7 when you're traveling full time. It's really helpful to have some sort of project, something else going on in your life aside from travel.
So there's really no rule that you have to get out and be a tourist every single day when you're a traveler. It's perfectly fine to spend a little bit of time on other things, maybe have a hobby.
Of course, this advice doesn't really apply to people who are digital nomads and they're still working Monday to Friday. They probably have enough to do balancing work and travel.
But for those of us who are retired early, like us, or taking a career break, or maybe on a sabbatical, it's really important to have something else to fill your time when you just can't go to yet another museum. So for us, we have our shared hobby.
Yeah, which is our YouTube channel and Instagram. It's something creative. It means learning new skills like photography and editing.
But we also have other hobbies as well. So I love reading about the history of the places that we visit, and I also do a lot of audio courses that I get from the digital library. Those are also about history.
Yes. And we both love to cook, and we're really into fitness, so we'd make time to work out every day, whether it's yoga or maybe a fitness class. I'm heading off for my very first surf lesson. Not really sure how it's gonna go. I'm hoping that I can manage to stand up and maybe even catch a wave. Well, it went way better than I expected. I'm just gonna head back out and try a few more.
Okay, so you've planned to be somewhere for the right season and you've got a couple of hobbies on the go. So what's the next most important thing?
That would be finding friends.
It sounds really sad, but this is actually one of the things we do get asked about the most. How do you make friends and create a sense of community when you're always on the move?
I mean, obviously we all have friends and family back home and we want to stay connected with them while we're traveling.
Even though they might not find our travel lifestyle very relatable.
But we also want to meet people along the way and make connections with other travelers. And the truth is that is not always easy.
We found that it's kind of necessary to have some kind of social media presence where you can share a little bit about yourself. Maybe you can connect with other people, you know, fellow nomads who are doing the same kind of thing as you.
Yeah, I mean, it could be on Instagram, it could be joining a Facebook group. Whatever it is, you do have to put in a little bit of effort to make new friends.
Yeah, and actually the truth is that most of these are going to be online relationships and they will probably stay that way. Like rarely do the stars align and you get to be in the same place at the same time.
Although it's always amazing when that happens. And in fact, we ended up having a lot of meetups in Romania of all places this
it was
summer.
a record number.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we do end up doing a lot of Zoom calls and we stay in touch virtually.
And that brings up another point, which is personality types.
Yep.
I do think this lifestyle is a little easier on introverts, which we both are, because we just don't need as many social interactions.
Yeah, I think for us, really once a week is just about perfect. Maybe 2 meetups a week. It becomes a very taxing social calendar.
Yeah, so for extroverts who need as many social interactions as possible, possible, it can be a little difficult to achieve while you're traveling.
Yeah, I would say for extroverts, it might be better to set up maybe a base for a few months in a place that's really popular with expats.
Yeah, like somewhere like San Miguel de Allende in Mexico or Cuenca in Ecuador.
Yeah, or maybe a place like Chiang Mai. Basically, these are places where it's a little bit easier to plug into that local expat community or where you can meet a lot of other travelers.
And just a quick note about being part of a couple. Obviously, we have each other for companionship.
Yes.
It's honestly a lot of pressure on a relationship when it's just the two of you all the time.
Yeah, it really is a lot of pressure. And it makes it even more important to have those separate hobbies and interests that we talked about, because eventually you really do need a break from each other.
Oh my gosh. Gillian, what have you done to me? Oh, this is terrifying. So I'm really scared of heights, like very, very scared. I do like to be up on mountains, but I definitely do not like to be dangling in this rickety thing. There is a lot of rust in this car. Oh my gosh. Oh, we're coming in. We're coming in for a landing. Oh, I really hope it slows down. Oh my God. Ooh.
Speaking of taking breaks, at some point you might find you need to actually take a break from traveling.
Yeah, travel burnout, it's a real issue. It's when the travel experience is just, it's no longer fun and exciting anymore. It's just painful and you need it to be over.
Yeah, so this is a personal thing and obviously looks different for everyone. I think for us, it seems to happen when our plans go off the rails and we have to come up with totally new travel plans.
So a little bit of context for you guys. Travel planning, at least for us, it's very time consuming. We usually do it about 6 to 8 months ahead of when we want to travel, and it eats up a lot of hours in the week.
Yeah, a lot of hours figuring out which countries we want to go to, looking for flights, figuring out itineraries, choosing Airbnbs.
It's all like a finely woven tapestry and you just don't want to pull on any threads. So when we run into last minute issues, like when we suddenly couldn't go to Morocco and Portugal the other year because of COVID.
Yes, or when we had big plans to hike up Machu Picchu and suddenly Peru closed because of political upheaval.
So we still have to spend that time somewhere in the world. We have to go back to the drawing board. We have to go back to our travel planning, but we don't have those 6 to 8 months left. We have to figure it out right away. And Gillian does not like working under pressure.
I do not, but actually other things can cause burnout too, like spending too much time in a place that doesn't resonate with us.
So for us, that was Medellin. We spent a month there and just found it very, very difficult.
Certainly we noticed that this is a city going through a lot of changes. There is some homelessness. You do need to be mindful of your belongings, especially in crowds.
Yeah, definitely in crowds. So I would say that it's a great place to visit if you're looking for a very urban experience. I mean, you have to really love an urban experience and you don't mind what is pretty lively street life.
Yeah, it's definitely lively here. And you might have noticed that we did more tours this month than usual. For us, going on tours really helped us to feel a little more comfortable navigating the city. So what do you do about travel burnout? Well, we found it can be really helpful to break up our travels with a trip back home.
Yeah, we don't technically have a home anywhere in the world,
true.
but we still have a hometown where we can see our friends and our family and familiar neighborhoods.
Yeah, so visiting home about 2 to 3 times a year feels right for us. We'll travel for 4 or 5 months, and then we come back to Canada for a month or 2, and that really helps provide a good reset.
Apparently there's a way you can get right up close to the waterfall, but you have to go through this little tunnel right here. Oh my God. That's it! I'm going under the waterfall! Woo! I'm just getting soaking wet. And the water is just pouring down. Just look at that.
All right, the big topic that I know you guys have all been waiting for, let's talk about travel costs.
So when we first started traveling, the premise was that we'd go to a lot of lower cost countries where we could live large on a small budget.
And to some extent, I would say that did work out. We've been to a lot of inexpensive countries, predominantly in Eastern Europe and also in South America. And yes, you can live very well for a whole lot less.
We were able to stay within a pretty tight budget during the first couple of years of travel, but it was kind of hit and miss with our Airbnbs, to be honest.
It was a lot. There were a lot of misses. It was just mostly misses.
Now the environment has totally changed. The COVID discounts are gone. Inflation is very real. The budget we started with 4 years ago would be totally unworkable today.
Yeah, we really had to ramp up our spending just to maintain that basic level of comfort that we prefer.
So there are a lot of little hacks that you can use to stretch your budget. You can collect points for flights, you can visit during shoulder season, maybe choose to stay in less prime locations.
Maybe you're doing more DIY entertainment, you cook at home more often, but actually the biggest hack is just the most simple. Travel more slowly.
Now, we've met a lot of people on the road who are staying a few days here and a few days there, and I can tell you that's really gonna blow your budget.
Yeah, there are a lot of hidden costs when you travel quickly. You're more reliant on dining out because you don't have time to get groceries and cook at home.
The transportation costs add up much more quickly. You might feel more pressure to do tours instead of taking the time to explore on your own.
And of course, the big one, you're not cashing in on those juicy monthly Airbnb discounts.
Yes,
so
that is
all
a
of
big
this
one.
becomes very expensive very quickly.
Now, you might not feel like staying a whole month in every single destination, but if you can balance out that fast travel with a good amount of slower travel, it can be very helpful for your budget.
Of course, we've got a lot more tips about how to plan your budget after traveling for 4 years. I think we've stayed in probably 50 Airbnbs.
Easily.
I think we've really got a handle on how much this lifestyle costs.
Yeah, so if you're looking for all the details about how much we spend, you can check out the next video right over here.
Since we get so many questions and so many comments about how much we spend, we just wanted to lay it all out for you guys.
So we've looked at all of our spending for the past few years, and we're gonna tell you exactly what we spend every month to make this lifestyle work.
And by the way, isn't this place just amazing? So we're in kind of a remote part of Columbia's coffee region. Now, technically this place is a little on the pricey side, but we're gonna talk later about how we make this kind of splurge work within our budget.